Thomas Aquinas was no ordinary man. From the moment he was born, his destiny seemed set. He was supposed to follow the path of power, influence, and wealth. But instead, he made a decision so shocking, so unthinkable, that his own family turned against him. His brothers kidnapped him, locked him away in a castle, and did everything in their power to force him to change his mind. They even sent a woman into his room to corrupt him. But what Thomas did next was so unbelievable that it became one of the most legendary moments in history. Why did his family go to such extremes to stop him? What secret knowledge did he possess that made kings and scholars fear his mind? And how did this quiet, reserved man rise to become one of the most powerful thinkers in human history? The answers to these questions will shock you. This is the astonishing, untold story of Thomas Aquinas, a man whose ideas shaped the world forever. Stay with me until the end, because what you're about to discover will change everything you thought you knew about faith, power, and the true battle for knowledge. In the year 1225, in the small village of Roccaseca, within the kingdom of Sicily, a child was born into one of the most powerful noble families of the time. His name was Thomas Aquinas, and from the very beginning his life was carefully planned. His father, Count Landulf of Aquino, and his mother, Theodora, had high expectations for him. As the youngest son of a noble family, he was expected to follow tradition, either by becoming a high-ranking church official or by serving in a prestigious political role. But something about Thomas was different. Even as a small child, he displayed an unusual depth of curiosity. While other noble children were trained in combat and court politics, Thomas was asking deep and puzzling questions. Questions about God, the universe, and the very nature of existence. Recognizing his brilliance, his parents decided to send him to the Abbey of Monte Cassino, a Benedictine monastery that was one of the greatest centers of learning at the time. The plan was simple. Thomas would receive a high-level education while being groomed to become an influential abbot. This would strengthen the family's power within the church and ensure their noble influence remained strong. But fate had other plans. At Monte Cassino, something remarkable happened. Thomas wasn't just an ordinary student. He was a prodigy. He devoured scripture, philosophy, and theology at an astonishing rate. The monks quickly realized that this young boy had a gift unlike any they had seen before. His ability to absorb knowledge, analyze deep theological concepts, and debate complex ideas was beyond his years. By the time he was 14, his parents realized that Monte Cassino was not enough. Thomas's mind was too sharp, too restless, and he needed to be challenged further. So they made another decision. They sent him to the University of Naples, one of the few places in Europe where advanced philosophy and theology were being taught. But they had no idea that this decision would set Thomas on a path that would change history forever. At Naples, he would encounter a new world of ideas, ones that would challenge and reshape everything he thought he knew. When Thomas Aquinas arrived at the University of Naples at the age of 14, he was immediately thrown into a world unlike anything he had experienced before. Unlike the peaceful and disciplined life at Monte Cassino, Naples was a place of intellectual revolution. The university was buzzing with new ideas, and for the first time, Thomas was exposed to philosophical teachings that would change his life forever. One of the biggest influences on him was the works of Aristotle. At the time, Aristotle's philosophy was seen as controversial by many religious scholars. Some feared that relying too much on reason and logic could weaken the foundation of faith, but Thomas didn't see it that way. Instead, he saw something incredible, the possibility of harmonizing faith and reason to gain a deeper understanding of God and the universe. His dedication to studying these ideas did not go unnoticed. Professors and fellow students were amazed at his ability to grasp complex concepts effortlessly. While many struggled to balance their faith with new philosophical ideas, Thomas had an uncanny ability to see how they could work together. But it wasn't just Aristotle's ideas that shaped him at Naples. It was also here that he encountered a group that would change the course of his life forever: the Dominican friars. The Dominicans were a relatively new order, known for their intense dedication to teaching, preaching, and intellectual pursuit. They were different from the traditional monastic orders. Instead of living in isolation, they went out into the world, engaging in debates, teaching the public, and spreading knowledge. Their intellectual rigor and devotion deeply impressed Thomas. The more he learned about them, the more he felt drawn to their way of life. He saw a higher purpose in their mission, a way to pursue knowledge, defend the truth, and serve God through teaching and wisdom. And then, he made a decision that would shake his entire family to its core. At just 19 years old, Thomas announced his decision to join the Dominican order. This was unthinkable. For his noble family, this was nothing short of a betrayal. The Dominicans, despite their growing influence, were seen by the noble class as lowly beggars, an order that renounced wealth and lived a life of poverty, teaching and preaching instead of holding power in the church. Thomas was expected to become a high-ranking church official, perhaps even an abbot or bishop. His family had spent years investing in his education, ensuring he would bring prestige and honor to their name. And yet here he was, throwing it all away to join a group that owned nothing and survived only on charity. His decision was not just shocking, it was unacceptable. His family would not stand for this. When Thomas Aquinas declared his intention to join the Dominican order, his family's reaction was swift and merciless. His father, Count Landulf, and his mother, Theodora, were outraged. They had spent years grooming him for a high-ranking position in the church, expecting him to become a powerful and influential leader. But instead, he had chosen poverty over prestige, knowledge over nobility, and faith over fortune. His family saw this as a humiliation, a disgrace to their noble name. The Dominicans were mendicant friars, living off alms and dedicating their lives to preaching and teaching. To them, Thomas's decision was throwing away everything they had worked so hard to give him. So, they acted fast. As Thomas prepared to leave Naples to formally join the Dominican order, his brothers, acting under orders from their furious father, kidnapped him. Yes, his own family abducted him. They took him by force and dragged him back to their family's castle, where they locked him away like a prisoner. He was placed under house arrest, confined within the cold stone walls of the Aquino family fortress. Their goal? Break his will. They believed that if they kept him isolated long enough, if they stripped him of his books, his studies, and his connection to the Dominicans, he would change his mind. But Thomas was not so easily broken. For over a year, he remained a prisoner in his own home, held captive by the very people who were supposed to love and support him. Yet, no matter what they did, he refused to renounce his calling. But then, his family took things to a shocking new level. In a final, desperate attempt to break his resolve, his brothers sent a woman into his room, a woman who was meant to tempt him into sin. They believed that if they could make him fall, he would no longer see himself as worthy of becoming a Dominican friar. What happened next shook them all to their core. Instead of succumbing, Thomas did something no one expected. He grabbed a burning log from the fireplace and drove the woman out of his room. Then, he fell to his knees and prayed with such fervor and devotion that, according to legend, he was granted a divine vision. That night, it is said that an angel appeared to him, tying a mystical belt around his waist as a sign of his lifelong commitment to purity and faith. His family had tried everything to stop him, kidnapping him, isolating him, tempting him, but nothing worked. Thomas's faith and conviction were unshakable. Seeing that they could not break his spirit, his mother, Theodora, finally relented. Though she could not openly defy her husband, she secretly arranged for Thomas to escape. With her help, he fled the castle in the dead of night, reuniting with the Dominicans at last. The young man who had once been locked away would soon become a legend, a thinker whose ideas would shape the course of history. After his dramatic escape from captivity, Thomas Aquinas finally reunited with the Dominican order. But his troubles were far from over. His family might have failed to break him, but the world of academia and religious thought was about to challenge him in ways he never imagined.